welcome in my guest. I don't know where she is. I think she's in Africa, but her name is Marvellous. Real name Marvellous Iheukwumere. Am I saying that right, Marvellous?
Yes, sir. You're doing a great job.
Hey, there we go.
The best.
Hey, give me a round of applause for that. I've been practicing too. I wanted to make sure. I definitely wanted to make sure I got it right. I'm a real stickler for stuff like that. I don't remember names very well, but then when people have names or they're not common ones, I like to always make sure, though, I pronounce them correctly and I say them correctly and things of that nature. But thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I guess it's nighttime now to join me. Where are you, by the way?
I'm in Nigeria right now, and it is 12:30 a.m. in the morning.
Look at that.
I think there's about a 6-hour difference or 7-hour difference from where you are right now.
So you just did one of my pet peeves. When people say like 5:30 a.m. in the morning, well, it's really only one. You can say, you can say either one. Where do we start? I got notes here, so let me get back to my professional thing here. Tell me what exactly do you do for the NBA?
In my time there, I was in the NBA's associate program, which is kind of like their leadership program for people once you graduate from college. So you do the program for a year, and then you phase into your full-time role there. Like the whole time it's a full-time position, but it gives you an opportunity to see the different kind of roles at the NBA. So at my time there, I was rotating in 4 different departments just to learn more about the business. And then at the end of my year rotation, I would end up in one department of my choosing based on kind of like what my strengths were and the job availabilities at the time. So during my time there, I was able to phase through the global marketing department, the events department, the legal department, and then lastly in the player development department, where I was able to garner a lot of information about how the NBA works from marketing standpoint, an event standpoint, legal standpoint, and also a player relations standpoint. So it gave me like a holistic approach to the business, so that once I stuck in one department, I was a valuable asset to that department.
Now you're talking in the past tense. From my understanding, you were just kind of taking a break to get back to track, and then you were going back. So is your time in the NBA over?
No, it's not over. I'm just saying it in the past tense because that role was what I was doing last year before I took the break, as opposed to saying presently because I did take a break, and this past year I've been running instead.
Gotcha. Follow her on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat at Stay Marvelous. She's an Olympic hopeful. She's also an NBA associate, as you just heard. Her name is Marvellous Iheukwumere. I'm still doing well, right? Iheukwumere?
Yes, sir.
Bang.
Hey, you're doing great.
I want to also know, since you've worked in so many different capacities within the NBA, what is your relationship with the African-born players, guys like Serge Ibaka and Bismack Biyombo and Luol Deng and guys like that within the NBA? Do you have a relationship with those guys?
I wouldn't say that I have a relationship with those guys per se, but I was able to work closely with Emmanuel Mudiay, who is African.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to work with him because he was a rookie, and I was more so working with the rookies during my time as an associate last year, and got to know his mom, and also got to kind of, talk to him about my experience being someone who had once lived in Africa and moved to the States. And similarly, he's the same way. He moved to Dallas and started playing basketball. And now, presently, I believe he still plays for Denver Nuggets.
He does.
But I got the chance to sort of talk to him and kind of learn about his own experience during the rookie transition program, which is a program that the NBA does for the rookies just to help them phase into the NBA, sort of like an orientation for high school students, but or orientation for college students, but in this case, it applies to rookies and teaches them the ropes of what to expect in a league and how things are run. So I got to spend some time with him there, and that's probably one of the people that I've gotten to have a closer relationship with in terms of the African-born players that play in the league.
Absolutely. Talking right now with Olympic hopeful in the 100 and 200 and 4x100. Her name is Marvellous Iheukwumere. Follow her on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat at Stay Marvelous, spelled STAYMARVELLOUS. You got one of the craziest stories that, like, if I were you, every time I met somebody, I would tell this story. It's one of the illest things I've ever heard. And in the light of this week, Tim Duncan now calling it a career, and Tim Duncan calling it a career with 5 championships, and a lot of people feeling like that next echelon as it relates to championships is 6 to match the great Michael Jordan. Marvellous, tell me why Tim Duncan doesn't have 6 championships, first of all. Tell me why that didn't happen.
I think the Spurs have been almost every finals. I think they've been close to getting there in terms of every NBA playoffs. I can't fully describe why he doesn't have 6
There's one particular reason why, and you were there. That he did.
I do remember.
Yeah.
Yes,
what happened? Why didn't he get 6 championships? Marvellous.
He didn't get 6 championships because the Heat advanced and won the Game 6 to go to Game 7, and actually won the series while LeBron was there with Wade. That was a great experience to see that happen, as I really have great respect for those guys, and also obviously for Tim Duncan. He is a legend, and he has accomplished a lot.
You're selling it, but you're selling it short. You're selling it short. When Ray Allen hit that 3-pointer, where were you and what were you doing in Game 6?
Oh, right.
Right. Like you don't remember.
Right. Behind the security tape. But, I'm happy in the way that it panned out, and I'm glad that he still has 5 other championships to relish. And in his, exit out of the NBA, and he's had a great career. It could have been 6, but it wasn't.
Hold on. The way I read the story was you were one of the people charged with rolling the Larry O'Brien trophy out. Am I mistaken in something or something, or is that not true?
It partially is. I think the article may have worded it a little bit differently than how it happened. Sometimes articles sometimes misplace words or quotes. It was actually my boss that was doing that. So
you should go with that version. The other, not the part about, go with that version that you were the one that was going to roll the trophy out. Yeah, go with that version. That's an awesome story. What are your times looking like right now? I know, getting onto the track side of you, you're such a multifaceted person, as I was reading about you. Moving on to the track side, you've taken a bit of a sabbatical from your NBA duties to get back into your love of track and field, and hopefully end up in Rio. Now, I read that I think you had to get it under certain times by Monday or something like that. How did all that go?
Right. So I had the standard was 23:20 and 11:32 in my respective races, the 200 and the 100-meter dash.
Mm-hmm.
And for the 4x1, it was just a matter of kind of placing in a certain position in both events, and sort of being close to the standard, but not necessarily running the standard.
Okay.
It's not as required for the relay because it's a pool of 4 to 6 people. So it was the rules are a little bit more lax, but for the individual events, you have to run the standard to be able to run that event there. So, I mean, I went to the trials. It was a long process starting from last week, Sunday. We had to go to Lagos, which is where the president of our federation lives. And then from there, we went to Sapele, which is the city in Delta, which is where the trials were held. And we were there from Monday to Thursday, which is when the trials started. And we ran from Thursday to Sunday. and actually 2 meets. One meet was a trials, which was 2 days long, and the other meet was a Grand Prix meet that they were supposed to hold later in the month of June, but they had to push it to that week of trials. So in the 100 was okay. I wasn't able to make it to the finals of the 100, so that was it for the 100. Not being able to make it to the finals, I didn't have another chance to possibly make it in that event. Okay. So I had the 200 next, and in 200 I made it to the finals in the 200, but wasn't able to place in the top 3 for the 200. So there was that opportunity for going in the 200 and hitting the standard. But the next day I still had an opportunity to run a better 100 time to be considered for the relay. And, things didn't go as planned, and I'm walking away with everything, happy that I was able to advance to the finals in the 200, and at least I can say I'm an Olympic trials finalist in the 200, and kind of walk away with that and, kind of be happy with the progress I've been able to make in this first year running professionally, and being able to accomplish that in my first year, and also being completely healthy, which is the best that I've ever been in my whole career since high school. This is the healthiest I've ever been in the whole season. So, I'm learning about taking away the positives from the whole situation, and kind of being happy with, the outcome, even though I would have loved to be on that 4x1 relay pool, but, things just didn't work out like that. And sometimes that's just how the game of sports works.
Yeah.
You can work really hard and try your best, and things don't always pan out, and sometimes they do, but you sort of learn to accept the process and, take away the positives that you can, and keep it moving towards future aspirations. And that's kind of how I'm looking at it. And it's been a great journey for me in terms of learning a lot about my sport, the politics behind it, especially the politics behind running professionally, and just sort of seeing that world, because it's a world that I've never been in. Seeing that prior to this, all of my track career was more so an amateur thing.
How long were you away from the track?
I was away from the track for about 2 years.
Now, I heard and I read that you would still get up early before your NBA job, get your weights in, do your job, and then afterwards get your track work in. And I found that to be amazing. Like, where does that come from? That drive, and where does that want to come from? Even though you weren't actively competing, still having the will to get up every morning and stay late or do your work late at night as well. Where does that come from?
I think that will just comes from my, inborn personality of being the best at what I do and being great. And because I knew that I didn't want to go into the year of training being so far behind, I knew that I had to start, at least a base training so that I wouldn't be so hard for me to catch up after being out of the game for almost 2 years. So I would train my body so that it wouldn't be so shocked when I got into the real training. And also because I genuinely have a passion for running track, and it's like something that I enjoy doing. So for me, it wasn't like a burden. It was like, oh, I have to do this because it's something that's part of me and has been a part of me for so long, since I was in 9th grade. So I think that was part of it, was it's part of who I am, and also because I have this zeal to be great at it. So nothing worth having comes easy, so I knew that I couldn't have made as much progress as I've made in this year if I hadn't started early.
Right. Sharing the mic right now with Marvellous Iheukwumere. She's an Olympic hopeful. She's also an NBA associate. Make sure you guys are following her on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat at Stay Marvellous, STAYMARVELLOUS. I want to talk about your hometown, so to speak, of Nigeria. What's the social attitude towards female athletes in Nigeria? I know here in America, we tend to feel like, because, there's Title IX and we have the WNBA, and female athletes a lot of times are celebrated in this country. We tend to kind of fail to zoom out and think about cultural differences everywhere else. Is it any different in Nigeria?
Oh, it's completely different. The social climate here is completely different towards female athletes, and that's another reason why I fight so hard for this and work hard to do this, because it's not just about me running track or doing it for myself, but it's as a platform, because I want to use it as a platform to teach people here about social responsibility and teach young girls that, yes, you can be an athlete.
Absolutely.
And yes, you can also be an athlete who is also a lawyer, who's also a doctor, and that being an athlete does not just define you, and that it's okay for you to pursue multiple callings in life. And that's what makes up your journey, your story. And, that's part of the reason why I do this, because I want a young girl who may have been like me growing up to see, okay, if Marvellous can do it, then I can too, and that there's nothing wrong with having multiple callings in life and pursuing those multiple callings and excelling in them. And I think that sometimes in our culture, we don't do that a lot. Like, it's a lot of children just see this one dimension of calling in life, like, okay, I'm going to go to school and do this and do that. And sometimes females aren't as encouraged to be athletes because of the negative connotations in terms of what it does to our bodies and how it masculinizes us, in terms of giving us more muscles or, making us look a little bit different than the standard of beauty here.
Gotcha.
So it's completely different, especially when I'm getting close to an age where there's expectations of marriage and all those things. And so it becomes, why are you still doing sports? Or do you not want to get married? And, those kind of questions. And so it's a different expectation and a different light than what I normally would get in the States. And that's why I'm doing it, because I want to be able to challenge the status quo and show that it's possible for me to be this kind of woman and still also be a woman who still has ideals for marriage and all, and education and advancing myself in my other career, as well as also pursuing this athletic world.
Hey, did you notice how professional I was? And I didn't try to get, even when we spoke briefly today, I didn't try to get cute with your name or anything. I didn't try to make any little stupid ass joke about Marvellous or anything of that nature. Did you notice how I did that?
I did notice it.
Yeah. Just wanted to point it out that, I'm trying to do my part as well. You talk about later on in life, you talk about, marriage and kids and other things that you aspire to. And there's been a lot of concern surrounding these Olympic Games in particular, with Rio and some of the security concerns, and especially the Zika virus. As you were training and doing everything you could to get yourself to Rio, were any of those things high on the list of concerns for you?
Definitely not. I'm the kind of person
wow.
When for me, I kind of grew up in Nigeria, so I've been around that kind of environment where there are those large threats of, mosquitoes and diseases and all those things. So for me, I wasn't really fazed by it, because I was like, well, the government is going to try to take care of it. The World Health Organization, I'm sure they're going to do something about it by the time that, it comes. I was like, it's the Olympics. Someone's going to take care of it. It's not going to be that big of a deal. And if it is, then they're going to advise people on what to do. And what I would do is, heed the advice. If there's a certain vaccine I have to take, then I'll take it. If there's a certain, thing that I have to do to make sure that I'm okay, then I will heed to those directions. But it wasn't ever really a big issue for me. In my mind, I was like, well, I'll make it, and then I'll take care of what I have to take care of when I get there. What
about your parents? What about, did mom and dad ever say, you know what, there is that Zika situation, or is it kind of along the same lines? They're from Nigeria as well, and they've kind of experienced the same things that you have, so it wasn't a big deal to them either.
Yeah, I think it was definitely like that. I don't think my I don't think my mom ever asked me once about the Zika virus or what was going on in Rio. In terms of all that stuff, if anything, we probably talked about the political unrest there, but not so much about anything in terms of the Zika virus. I mean, we saw that it was apparent and that it was something that was serious, but never really crossed my mind that it would be something where if I had the opportunity to go, that I would say no because it was there.
No doubt. No doubt. She's Marvellous Iheukwumere. Make sure you guys are following her on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat at Stay Marvelous. When I was reading your story, you talked about twice in your I guess acclamation to the United States, 2 times where you had like this culture shock. Once when you were younger, and then going to school in New York. Give me an example, though. Give me a specific moment when you were like, "Oh my God, this is America," that it just hit you in the face like a ton of bricks.
I would say my first day of school in Texas, when I moved from Nigeria to Texas, probably was my first realization that I was in America. And it was because for the first time in my life, I was the only person of color in the classroom.
Really?
And everyone was not the same color as me. And that was very weird for me because growing up as a kid, obviously in Nigeria, I was mostly around people that looked like me. And to be in a classroom where I was the outsider, like for the first time in my life, I was the outsider, and to not really understand what my classmates were saying, like it was the same English I was speaking, but to not be able to understand what they were saying and for them to stare at me so weirdly.
What was different?
I was saying. What
was different about what they were saying?
It was different because I couldn't hear them. It was so quick. Like it wasn't like the same English I was used to speaking. It was like, it was different for me. And as a kid, I never really, I watched TV, but it was really much so cartoons. So I didn't really watch it wasn't like I watched like sitcoms or something like that would show me what white people sounded like. So I didn't know. So when I first got there to school and actually saw them and saw what they sounded like, it was like, oh wow, so this is what this breed of people sound like. So this is what they look like.
That's awesome.
This is what they look like. And for them also, it was like understanding that, oh, this is a black person, a person of color, but she's not American.
Yeah.
Like, she's African. So it was also weird for them. And I would get questions like, oh, do you live in a tree or do you swim? Like,
kids are idiots.
It was a really, it was a really tough couple of years for me to adjust. There was so much of a difference in where I was coming from and what they know and where they're coming from as well.
Yeah, they've got terrible parents. Those kids had terrible parents. If they were actually human being, if they lived in a tree, yeah, they've got terrible parents. By the way, I appreciate you joining me there. I got one last thing for you before I let you go, and I know it's late over there, so I definitely appreciate your time. What's the news like over there? Like here in the States where we're dealing with these recent police shootings, does that have any impact in Nigeria? Do people talk about that kind of thing when it happens here in the States over where you are?
Oh, definitely. It's interesting because I was at the hotel where we were staying at for the competition. Had CNN. Even as young as that, when I was living here in Nigeria, my parents used to watch CNN, and if not watching it, but hear it on the radio. And so so people here are very aware of what's going on in the United States, what's going on in London. Like everyone knows here that Trump and Hillary Clinton are running, are going to be in the presidential election, and the whole gun violence and all of that.
What's the conversation like?
All of that. And the conversation is actually interesting. Back to my point of the hotel, we were in the lobby of the hotel, and the hotel TV was playing what was going on, and the guests that were coming in looked at us and they were like, have you guys heard of what's happened? Like, we're so angry that this is happening, that the white people are killing black people in America. And this was the day when the shooting happened in Dallas. The cop shooting happened in Dallas, and the man that was talking to us was saying, "Good job to the person who killed the Dallas cops."
Wow.
And, kind of like in solitude with the person who killed the cops, saying like, "Oh, it's a good thing because they're killing, people of color." And I was shocked to hear them say that, because I knew that, they know what's going on, but not to the extent to where they know to pick sides or to know, like, what's going on, and knowing that this is kind of like a racial problem that's going on in America. And they know about it a lot, and even when I came back to visit my family, my cousins were talking about it and talking about how they've been following it, even from as early as the Trayvon Martin case and all that.
Wow. That's
they're very aware.
Yeah, that's eye opening. Once again, man, she's this Marvellous Iheukwumere, an Olympic hopeful, an NBA associate. You guys definitely make sure you guys follow her on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat at Stay Marvellous, STAYMARVELLOUS. Once again, ma'am, I thank you for staying up so late and talking to me. It was my pleasure, definitely. And good luck to you.
No
good luck to you going forward, man. I hope to see you on the track and doing your thing, and all the messages that you're trying to get across to people. By all means, man, the best of luck to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike. Have a great one.